The following update to the class calendar was posted over break. You should have received an announcement on our Canvas page in the top module. It appears as revision 1 to the course schedule, RV1. The important part about this is next Thursday, we won't have class. I have a meeting, overlaps this perfectly, so I need to go to that. I did tell you about this giant accreditation project for the university. That's that meeting. We're still working on timing out all of the other modules and discussions, but it looks like everything will still fit. There shouldn't be any weird days. If you go back and look at the original course schedule, have a slack day. That's what I chopped. So put this in your calendar. Next Thursday, you don't have to come here. You had a project due today that included doing a bit of descriptive statistics, a bit of inferential and analytics for the statistics you created. I want to talk about the visuals. You built histograms. You built displays for other things. There's a slight issue in Excel. It's not huge, but it is important. You can only build visuals in Excel in the sheet you're on. The data must all be together. It's got to be in one place uniformly. We kept talking about this when we were talking about ensuring that our data was clean, making sure it was in the right place where we could keep track of it. It would be beneficial to us to allow us to agglomerate data from multiple sources and use it in one place. Power BI is a piece of software. BI here stands for business intelligence. Power here represents some limited pre-processing and original interactability with our data. Power BI is a way to do this. It's a way to expand the kinds of visuals we can create and the kinds of presentations we can do out of these. There are desktop versions of Power BI available. Power BI is a Microsoft product. As such, it is really designed for the PC environment. The online version is available through Office 365. That's something you have access to through Seton Hill. So that's how we're going to get there. So what I need you to do is open up a browser window on your computer, go to office.com. If you don't see this, if you see a logon window, you should log on with your Seton Hill account. Use your Seton Hill credentials to log in the office.com website. Now, my first problem with this is that I've landed on Copilot. I've landed directly in what I consider to be Microsoft's biggest trap. This is their AI page. We'll have an entire module discussing AI use, but right now, I don't want to deal with it. So in the lower left, you should see something that says apps. Please click on that. Here's my list. All of Office 365 that you have access to as a Seton Hill student is available here. I want to use something that isn't listed. I'm going to click on the All Apps button here. Again, I still don't see what I want, except that second row of apps, right? I see use across Teams, Outlook, and Copilot. If I click on this version of Power BI, it's going to, again, open the Copilot-enabled version. Don't want to use the AI version. I want to know what I'm doing before I hand this off to an agent. So again, in the top row, over here on the right, it says All Apps. Bink. Here's everything. Everything you have access to in Office 365. In alphabetical order. So find Power BI and open that. Your screen will probably look much different than mine. Yes, sir. At all? Now, this is a big problem because I was told it was accessible through Office 365 through your Seton Hill credentials. Are you logged in with your Seton Hill account as opposed to through some other account? Double check that you are logged in down here on the lower lower left. Make sure that's your Seton Hill account. It is? Yeah. And how many of you don't see Power? How many of you do see Power BI? Let's put it that way. Nobody sees this damn thing. Okay, a couple of you. What the hell? You can get that. How do you add it? Because I didn't have to do that. I don't know. So let's go back down further, up further. Add-ins. Okay, let's click on that. Does that load other options for Power BI? That was a menu option. Just click add apps in the top right. So down here. We go back to the all apps. Okay. All apps. Behind where it says my name. Top right, get more apps. Okay, so that's where we get Power BI added in. I don't know why, as student accounts, that wouldn't be immediately available to you. I didn't go through this. That's why it caught me off guard. I apologize. I'm going to write myself a note right now. Yeah, just. If I click on get more apps, it gives me all sorts of options for things to search for. And you can find stuff that should be under the Built by Microsoft list. But if not, you can search up there in the upper left, type in Power, should come up right away. Is that working? It's going to be a really short lecture on this. Joe?
So another question, now it's asking for the date. Dismiss account? Yeah.
Which should be your Seton Hill account.
Yeah. It's asking for a job title of your business model.
You're welcome to put in student and your university phone number if you have a local. If not, ignore the phone number. Will it let you know that one? Oh, crap. Let's see, what's the university's name?
I just put it in right.
Yeah, let's say. I don't know what it's gonna call you for. Never called me. Let's see, we can make up a phone number, 867-5309. None of you are old enough to get the joke. So once you've gotten in, you'll see a page that looks like this. This is my Power BI homepage. The working buttons on the left panel there, this is home. There are workspaces in the lower left. You'll see something titled My Workspace. Above it, several windows stacked above each other says Workspaces. In the professional version, you can have collaborative workspaces. You can share with other people, across your team, across your working group. Those are collaborative. We're going to do almost all of this in My Workspace for you. The Create button, third down, allows us to build things. We're going to use that a lot here at the beginning. A report, a dashboard, all sorts of other things that we can put together. Questions so far? I need a pile of data to work in. Where am I going to get the data? I have to put the data into Power BI. Just like I had to copy it from somewhere, put it into Excel to use it, I need a set of data. This is the largest drawback of the web-based version of Power BI. This is the part that gave me the most trouble putting together notes for this lecture. So I've got a process, works most of the time. We're going to go through and figure out what gives. You can put your stuff in SharePoint or OneDrive. I am a firm believer in local copies. Whatever data file you create should be stored on your machine so you can't lose it without having your machine crash. So I have on our Canvas page some plain text files. Any pile of data I have retrieved is stored in plain text. L19, 20, 21, 22, here they are. Let's start with 19, download it. You're going to open it in Word when it opens, or it'll open in text edit if you open it. But you should download it for the moment. So here is the text file I created from our download, plain text. I want to put this into Excel. So open Excel and import this file as plain text. I'm waiting for Excel to open. Open a blank worksheet. And to get the data, we are going to bring it in from its text format. So under File, click Import. When we give the file as a text file, notice there are 3 options available for import here. You may have used a CSV file before. CSV stands for comma separated values. They've delimited each piece across the row with a comma. There is an HTML. Load a web page this way. If you scrape a table from a website, you can save the entire website as HTML and then extract the table into Excel. We're going to use a text file. When I load this, it's going to ask me, where's the file? L19 text is right here. Get data. It's pre-processing this form. It's trying to figure out what the data is in this file so it imports correctly. Right now, it's showing me fields are aligned in columns with spaces between each field. I've set fixed width for my choice. If you have delimiters, colons, spaces, dashes, other ways of telling your fields apart, you can use delimited. When you hit next, it's showing you where it's going to break the columns. If you're looking at this and going, that isn't right, maybe you want the year and the month and the day separated. For some reason, I don't at this point. You could add additional lines. I don't want to add any additional lines. I want to keep this as is, so I hit next. Now, what stuff is in each column? Right now, it's treating all of them as general data. General data is just strings. If it's just strings, it won't recognize that first column as dates. So I need to tell it that first column is a date. You'll notice next to that date format is a drop down. That drop down tells me the format of that date. Looking at this, the date appears to be a year, a month, and a day. But right now it says MDY, that would be month, day, year. That's not the right format. I want year, month, day. So I'm going to click this drop down and find year, month, day. Here's one thing. Once you've done all of this, you have an Excel file. And I'm going to tell you to put it right here on this page, right where I started in A1. Here's my data file. Save this in Excel format. I don't care what you call it. If you want to leave this in a cloud-based service like OneDrive or SharePoint, you can, from our apps page, open OneDrive or SharePoint. Here's my OneDrive page. Eventually, here's my OneDrive page. And you'll notice it's got, in my files, a bunch of Excel stuff that I uploaded. That means I can pull them from here into Power BI, but I believe in local copies. So I'm going to take the one that's on my computer and upload it instead. I have had too many systems, times, places where I've been burned with internet access loss. If I lose my Wi-Fi, all of a sudden all my files are gone. I hate to tell you this, that sucks. And I've done work on planes where you couldn't have the Wi-Fi at the time, so I was doing it all on local copy. I'm a firm believer in local copy. So, over on the left button, there's a little plus and a circle, hit create. Oh, what data are you going to use to build a report? Okay. Here's where you have your choices. I can get data, I can pull an Excel, I can pull a CSV, I can get things from other places. So let's use that Excel sheet. Excel. Where is it? Please notice the two options at the top. Upload or connect to data. If you've stored your data in OneDrive, this is where you click on the Browse OneDrive. And you put the link to the file right there. It'll do it automatically if you browse the OneDrive. Come on, show me OneDrive. And here's my OneDrive, which is connected through my account right here. I'm not going to do that. I want you to upload the file, so we click on Upload. And then you can either click the Browse button, find where you stored that file you just saved, or if you have a Finder window open, you can drag it from the Finder window to the upload spot. Now, I just stored this as a temporary file, so my file name is temp1.
When I save file, this is my one.
Automatically?
Yeah, should I just use that or should I now save it to my file?
Okay, what that means is that you've defaulted to a cloud storage account. Every file you save is automatically in your OneDrive, right? Well, that means that none of your files are stored locally. That's a decision that's up to you. If that's the way you want to do it, yes, just connect it with your OneDrive account. That's perfectly fine. This is a completely your choice. I'm showing my bias against cloud storage. But that's me, not a requirement. If you want to grab this from OneDrive, grab it from OneDrive. If you don't and you stored it locally, then you can drag it and drop it. But in any case, it's going to take a second, and either it's going to connect and tell you what the credentials are to make sure it's connected to your OneDrive account, or it's going to tell you, I've already done this, it's uploaded, hit next down here on the right. And we get this. What the is this? This is asking me where's the data in your file that you just created. And over here on the right, there's actually a link directly to the table. So I'm going to click that. And it brings up the table. Now, please notice, there are headers on all three of these columns. This is the part that drove me for 2 solid days beating my head against the wall. I want to make sure that Power BI knows that first column is a date, that second column is a text label, and that third column is numeric data. And if you look at the headers, it sure looks like it does, doesn't it? Notice it converted the date from year, month, day to quote unquote normal American format, month, day, year. It built it to Excel's standard. It imported it as Excel format. Here's what happened to me the first time I just hit create a report. When I hit create a report, it lost the formatting. And that last column was no longer numbers, it was letters. It didn't recognize them as numbers anymore. That's stupid. So I'm going to hit that transform data button. I'm not going to do any transformations, but I'm going to do the transform data button. Click. That brings me up a whole new thing. It brings in the files again. It says, okay, here's where if it wasn't in the right format, I could change the format. See the little drop downs on the table? You could adjust the formatting right there. Formatting is okay as far as I'm concerned, so I'm just going to click create a report. I need a name for this. I need to figure out where I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it in my workspace over there. You'll see on the left, you probably don't have any other workspaces listed, but you should definitely have my workspace available to you. Now let's give it a name. I'm just going to call it by today's date because I have a bunch of other stuff already done in here. But let's call this whatever name you want to give it. You could call it L19 because that's the file we got from, right? You could call it today. You could call it my first around in Power BI, whatever you want to call it. Notice that name slot says semantic model. Create. And now I get this. And it's going to take a minute and it's going to open the report editor where I can edit a report, which is a pile of things I can do with my data. This usually takes a minute. If it gets stuck, make sure it finishes the creating of the semantic model. Then there's a way to open that from the workspace. Hey, here we go. This is the report editor. I can create all sorts of visuals with the data I have. But first I need to make sure the data came in correct. I have 3 columns of text over here on the right side of the page, yes? Data, visualizations, and filters. You may not have these expanded. Please expand them if they're not already expanded. It is possible that they are compressed like this. Do you see how they're shrunk on the right? I want you to expand them all. In the data, there's our table name, L19. There's a little sideways arrow next to it. Click that sideways arrow. Does your screen next to the 3rd set of entries there, do you see that little sigma? That tells me it recognizes that as numbers. The first time I did this, for 2 solid days, I could not get that stupid sigma to show. And it just takes hitting that transform data button to force it to do a little bit of behind the scenes AI-driven pre-processing that it will allow it to recognize, hey, this is numerical data, not just random crap we came up with. Whew. Questions so far? Okay. This was a bunch of sales data, right? We had products, we had sales information, we had dates. If I was asking you for a chart, what sort of a chart would you create with this information? Seriously, what would you want to know based off of this information? So how many products were sold on what days, right? Well, that would be a bar chart. Dates across the bottom, heights. All of these visuals are different charts that are available to me. I can make a pie chart, a bar chart, a column chart, stacked columns, scatter plots. I can do all sorts of things provided I have the right kind of data to play with. Here, I'm going to create a chart. I'm going to make a pie chart. If you hover over the visual for the chart, it'll light up with its name. So click on pie chart. There it is. Now here's the fun part. This is just a blank format. What goes where? In the visual itself, now underneath, I have places to put data. Felix, you said I should look at sales by date. Okay, then I'm going to grab sales, drag it to values. I'm going to grab date, drag it to legend. That way it'll sort my sales by date. Date to the legend. You'll notice it even shows me, because date is a complicated piece, how it's going to break it down. There's a hierarchy under date. Then I grab sales and drag it to values. Now, it is telling me all the sales happened in 2023. Well, that's true. If you go back and look at the actual dates in the text file, you'll notice that they only differed by 1 day each. So showing me year or quarter or month won't help here. If I instead remove those pieces from my date legend, I see different sales by different days. Maybe what I sold on which day, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, isn't as important as how much I sold in each category. So I could change this legend. I could X out date and add in product. Now it's sorted by product instead of by day. And you can even see how they color-coded and set up the product. But maybe I want to see both pieces of information at the same time. Maybe I want to see not just this pie chart of sales by product, but I also want to see sales by date. Let's build another chart. Let's build a different chart. Instead of another pie chart, I want to build a column chart. Click outside that chart. See how it's not highlighted anymore? There's no box around it. Now if I change this, I can make a new chart. Second option at the top there is column chart. And again, when I click on that visual, it gives me all the options underneath it. I'm going to move this over here. That's by product. This one will be by date. So the x-axis will be dates. And again, I'll go through and remove to day. And then I'll put sales. And now it's sales by day. Hey, click on a bar or a wedge. Go click on something in one of the charts. What happens? The charts are linked across each other. All of the sales that occurred on the 3rd were t-shirt sales. If I'd had multiple sales from multiple types on that day, it would highlight all of the appropriate pieces of the segments in the pie chart by the date I clicked in the bar chart, or vice versa. If I go down here and I click on the hoodies, it shows me, oh, those were all sold on the 2nd. This is live, it's interactive, it's connected. It's changeable immediately. Maybe I'd be happier not having a bar chart, but having a line chart. Well, the line chart doesn't do very much for me because I'm highlighted, right? Let's uncheck that. There are all of my sales across all of the days. as line chart, not bar chart, column chart. If I'm in here and I change the type, it keeps the data that I've selected, provided that type supports that data. Questions? Yes, sir. Your semantic model didn't load? Okay. Yes. So what we're going to do, if your semantic model failed to load, you never got here. Okay. I'm going to save this at the moment. Notice over here, there's a save button. And now it says enter a name for your report. Again, March 10. Save. Please notice the view changed. There's no more stuff over here on the right. We're in view mode rather than edit mode. There is still an edit button up here at the top. I can go back to editing my report. You said you couldn't find this. You couldn't get here from the semantic model, right? Okay, it's just spinning. What I want you to do is click back to home. Down here on the bottom should be a list of things, right? So let's click on My Workspace. You have a list of things in My Workspace. Your workspace is all the way on the left, close to the bottom. Is there anything showing here? There's a semantic model. So what I want you to do is I want you to click on the semantic model. And that should bring you to this page. It says in the upper left, green button open. Click that. Okay. And now, click on File, and there's a Create Report button. If you click on Create New Report, it should take you to the report page. Thank you. I'm glad that happened to you. I'm kind of sorry that you didn't interrupt me earlier, but I'm glad it happened because it shows you how to get back into a semantic report if you're stuck out of it. Now, since I did save my semantic model under my workspace, here's a list of all the stuff I've been doing. And I was working on these modules over break. So you'll notice over here, I've got refreshed dates. I've got the dates I did stuff. They're over here sorted alphabetically. I just created March 10th as a report. And all the way at the bottom, I have Tuesday, March 10th as a semantic model. So I got the model and report we built right here, right now, sitting here. But if I wanted to change any of this, I'm actually going to rename this workspace to include the word Tuesday. Then the model and the report are together down here at the bottom where I can see them. But I can also sort by the date. And if I sort by the date, I'm going to sort descending by the date. Then the thing I did most recently is at the top. And that has the model and the report that we just generated. Questions so far? Talk to me, people. That refresh statement is something I can program to be done automatically. Let's suppose I save all of my files to my OneDrive, and I've linked this report to my OneDrive, rather than me uploading the file like I did. Well, then I'm working in conjunction with the rest of my team, and people save things to this file. People go and edit it, or we got new data in today, let's add that data in, and we update the file. I can refresh the link to the file in the semantic model. That will automatically load all the new data in the same place as the current data. So, I'm downstairs in the registrar's office dealing with catalog changes for the upcoming schedule release tomorrow so that we can start registering for fall classes. And I'm looking at, oh, these courses got omitted, these courses got added, and this last piece of data was updated yesterday. All right, let's generate new reports. Do I have enough rooms for everybody? Do I have all the rooms assigned with no overlapping pieces? Did I screw some? And I'll be able to check the dashboard and the report I created from that. A report is an interactive page full of visuals. We built those visuals. The individual pieces in the visuals I created in this report, the individual pieces are called tiles. So this report has two tiles in it, the pie chart and the bar chart. I can rearrange, I can resize, I can color code, I can edit the heck out of these. So if I go back to the edit button, because I'd saved this already, let's look at the column chart for the moment. This second piece is the visuals column. We were on the build visuals section. There are other things there. Please notice there are lots of other visuals. We can add other visuals if we want. If you click on this Get More Visuals, there's a way to go see other creators' visuals and visual packages that they built. For example, when we get to stats next semester, we'll talk about histograms and histogram analysis in more detail. We'll look at these in our descriptive statistics in more detail. There's no built-in histogram package here. But there are two different created histogram packages that I can add. But I can format my visual. If you click on this, I'm going to format this bar chart. Because I don't know about you, but I wear these stupid glasses for a reason. Some of these numbers are damn near invisible to me. So let's change the font size. Let's blow these numbers up so I can see them better. Let's blow the text size up. I can now adapt all of these things. Notice each visual has all of the categories that I can adjust in this middle column. If I go to the x-axis, it's a continuous range. The low and the high were generated automatically. I can check the title, which at this point just says day. I can tap on the values so that I know where they're coming from. If I open these, please notice it allows me to change the font. Font size, color, number of decimal places carried, all of these things can be adjusted. I'm blind, I'm going to double the font size. Numbers got bigger. Title, same deal. Everything gets bigger. Easier for me to read. I can do the same thing on the y-axis. I just have to go from the x-axis drop down to the y-axis drop down. Readability is important. Maybe I'd like the colors to be matched to the colors in the other chart, so I should see if they're linkable. Columns. Apply to all categories. Oh, I could apply them by category. So I could apply different things to different categories here. I can change the color, the transparency, border, layout. I've got all sorts of options here. You are able to search and do analysis in some of these. More on that in a little bit. Questions? This is a fairly simple data set. But if I were looking at more complicated data sets, we had a discount field in the one we were just working with, right? Discount applied, yes, no. I could ask to filter the data, couldn't I? What was the symbol for a filter in Excel? A funnel, right? Look at the visuals you've got here. See anything with funnel on it? Look carefully. By the way, the reason I am not saying, oh, it will be here is because the desktop version and the online version, paid version and the free version, all give me slightly different layouts. When I find the thing with the funnel on it, hover over it, tell me what that visual is called. Here's mine. It looks exactly like the little funnel we used in Excel. And when I hover over it, it says slicer. A slicer is a live filter. I just clicked on the slicer and it created for me a new tile. And now I'm going to go back here to my data. And if I add a data field to this, I can slice these images. If we were working with the previous set of data, sales were listed whether they had discount applied or not, right? We had products that were sold with discount, products sold without discount. So I would have all of these products and some had discounts and some didn't. I could add the discount field here, and then it would allow me to turn on or off whether I was looking at things with a discount. I added product because I don't have a discount code for this particular small data set. Notice what it created down there. Created a set of checkboxes. Pick one and click it. What happened when you clicked one of those? Not just one chart, it changes all the charts, and only that category is now visible. Maybe I want to see more than one at a time. I can do that if I hold down the control key. I'm sorry, the command key. I'm on a Mac, I keep forgetting. So there, if I want to see just two categories, I hold down command and click on those two. Multiple selections are allowed when I use the command key. If you then click one of the highlighted categories, it resets. You can have a slicer only affect one rather than both charts. If you look in the top band above our visualization and filters, there's something that says visual interactions. If I click on visual interactions, I can edit the interaction. And that will allow me to tell it which of the charts I want it to affect. Do I want it to affect just the sales chart, the column, or just the pie chart? I can then go through each of these. Up in the upper right of the visual, you see a little circle with a slash through it? If I click on that, then the slicer no longer affects that chart. Let's say I only want it to affect the pie chart. Now it's turned off for the column chart. If I go over here and I start selecting products, that doesn't change. Only the pie chart changes. I can change it back by clicking that edit interactions again and turning it on. The little downward triangle is kind of a bad version of the funnel. That's let this be filtered. So it's either filter or don't. With that little insignia up there. Questions? I'm pretty sure that the text file labeled 20 in our canvas page is the same as the text file labeled 19. Not 100% sure, I'm pretty sure it is. But I know 21 is a different file. 22 is a different file. Depending on what we want to do with our data, some visuals work and some don't. If I said, oh, I don't need a bar chart here, I need a scatter plot, there's a scatter plot icon over here. I click on the scatter plot. Is that a useful piece of information? Is it accurate? What the hell just happened here?
There's the y-axis.
And the y-axis in this setting was, oh, yeah, that wasn't numbers, was it? There were categories, wasn't numerical data. So a scatter plot doesn't apply here. It isn't a useful thing. There are all sorts of regions. I can create a global map if I had location data on any of this. Where were these sales located? A variation of a pie chart. Let's go back to the bar chart. There's my column chart. But depending on what kind of visual we want to create, they're a lot easier here than they are in Excel. Data analysis end of it seems a little simple. Questions? Okay. I would like you to take L21, text file label 21, load it into Power BI. By the way, since I added that slicer and made these changes, if I try and leave this, it's going to ask, hey, don't you want to save this? You have unsaved changes. So I'm going to say yes. And then it'll let me leave. You are allowed to discard changes if you don't want them. So remember, take the text file, import it to Excel. If there's data, check the format so it loads it over properly. Then either upload that or link to it from OneDrive in Power BI once you've saved the Excel file somewhere using the Create button. Felix, I hope this one actually loads into the report editor rather than getting stuck in semantic model.
You also to create the report.
Once you've gotten the file uploaded and you've done the transform data stuff, yes, click on Create Report. I already built this report, but I want you to take a look at what I built. Once you've got your data. Please, by the way, make sure that your data has that little sigma in the appropriate spot so that you know you've got numerical values in as numerical. You have to do the transform data before you create the report to make sure that you get this sales data brought in as numerical. That's been the kick to me. If you go directly to create report, you may or may not get that signal. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and I can't guarantee it doesn't work without doing the transform data. Between Dr. Burns and I, that took about 3 days. So the table that you built in Excel should look like this. I've added it in the lower right of my visual. Hey, I put that table on my dashboard because there is a visual under the build visual styles that is a table. That table is exactly the same as our Excel table. So if you don't remember what your Excel table looked like, you don't have to keep it open in the background. You can add it directly to your dashboard, to your report. Now, what I've created in the upper left here should look familiar to you based on what you did in the Excel course. What the hell is this? In the upper left here. We've done it here too. If I wanted to build something like that in Excel, what would I call it? A pivot table. That's built as a pivot table. It's got categories of month and categories of region by row and column. I built pivot tables in Excel. I can build them here too. Next to the table option is one that says matrix. If I click on matrix, that's going to give me this option. I created this matrix with region under rows and month under columns.
Oh, doesn't say,
Sorry, I can't quite hear you.
doesn't say confirmation, the sun says column 1, column 2, column 3. Okay, it's continuous.
Okay, so I think what that means is it didn't recognize the headers in your table. You might have to re-upload or reload the semantic model and go through the transform data again. If it just says column 1, column 2, and column 3, it didn't recognize the data as it uploaded. So when you go back to the transform data, that requires me to open the semantic model. L21 semantic model. Open. If this is not where the columns are labeled, you might have to do the upload again. Where's the transform? Nope, that's not it. Felix, try the re-upload. Let's see if that fixes it. Please note, since I exited and then came back, I didn't save that additional table. So when I came back to my report, that table's gone. Please also notice in the lower left on that column on the left, at the bottom, I have 2 workspaces showing. And they're labeled L21, that's this one, and Tuesday, March 10, that's what we were doing with the L19 data. So they're right here, and I can switch back and forth between them from one to the other without having to reload. If I want to get rid of one of them, there's a little X, I can just close it out. The pivot table can be used with some changes here that weren't available to me in Excel. I built this pivot table using the matrix visual. With region in rows and months in columns. Felix, that's another option. If I have the table open, if I build the table as well, then I know what's in each one, even if they're not labeled properly up there. But notice what I've done. I've cheated here. There's a visual on this that helps. What region sold the most? They're color coded. Money is green, so I picked green for money, and I color coded these. The darker the color, the more sales occurred. I can emphasize and de-emphasize by color. When I do that, they change the name. Technically, this pivot table is now acting as a heat map, where the more intense color is a more intense value, a larger value in this case. If we wanted to make them different colors for different ranges, we could edit the colors. Under Build Visual, the next one is Format the Visual. I can click on the values, because that's these numbers here in the middle, they're the values. Cell elements. Those are the things in my cell. So I scroll down to cell elements. Click on that. And there are some options here. I turned on background color. And then I click that little FX button. Boop. I asked it to do a gradient. So it's going to go from whatever color I select for the low end to whatever color I select for the high end. And I can click these two buttons, drop down for minimum and maximum. I just left minimum as white, but I changed the maximum color. If you go to the default, I think it's blue to start with. But maybe you want a different color. Change it to whatever you want by editing this color. You'll notice there are no greens up here. I had to build green on my own. See where it says more colors? I had to create a green. But once I picked it, I could go back, and then that color would be up here in this box. So if you don't want to use green, you can use any other color you'd like. But then your emphasis changes. What color do you like for this? If you choose different colors at different ends, you can get a color scale from one to the other. I know. We'll do something that's politically driven and we'll have red and blue areas, right? What everybody's got in their heads, red and blue. For the record, the convention of Democrats being blue and Republicans being red was invented by the national networks in the late 70s when they started doing the early call of all the voting maps. In the 1960 elections, it was the other way around. Democrats were red and Republicans were blue. So they've done those changes. Colors are completely arbitrary. But it's up to you if you want to do background colors in different ways. I tend to leave the low end clean and empty and just do darker or lighter of one color. So a heat map like this allows me to put emphasis on high values, or if I wanted to do it the other way around, put particular emphasis on the low values. I could switch where the color is and where the white is. Questions? I'm going to come back to this set of data. Please make sure you've built this heat map. I don't care what colors you're using, but I want to talk about days and dates and the way that it's dealing with the date information here and sort of a trend line analysis. It's going to take me more than the 3 minutes I have left, so we'll pick that up on Thursday. Let's see all that. Wonderful rest of your day. Make sure you save what you have done in Power BI.